Now MonPrunier is a microbrand based in Czechia, which is a beautiful country located in the heart of Europe, otherwise known as the Czech Republic, and who has the stunning city of Prague as its capital. And MonPrunier literally translates from French to my plum tree, and the name was born out of the brand owner who grew up in a region of Slovakia well known for growing plum trees. Now only in the microbrand world would you get such a touching meaning behind brands. Now their journey began in the summer of 2021 when they hired an independent watch designer to help them create a watch for everyday wear. And by 2022 their very first model, their MonPrunier Deep Blue, was introduced to the world. Totally cool. And just to reiterate what was said in a classic 90-second spec, the Snow White I measured came in at a slender 9.2mm thick, 40mm in diameter, 48mm lug to lug, 20mm at the lug, with this silver stainless steel 316L bracelet tapering down to about 17.5mm at the signatured clasp. Now the case is a 316L stainless steel case with a mixture of brushed and polished finishings. It's brushed at the sides from lug to lug with a polished finish on these chamfered or slightly levelled out edges that start at the end of the lug and go into the polished bezel, and again polished towards the underside of that case and into the caseback. Now it's a fairly classic mix of polished bezel and mainly brushed sides of the case, so very typical dress watch case. And as you can see from lug to lug, there is some nice curvature on the case too, so overall that case would suggest very dressy. The crown here at 3 o'clock is a push-pull crown, the diameter of which I measured at 4.8mm and is signed with a MonPrunier logo icon, which incidentally is of a plum. And just to note that the MonPrunier Snow White has a water resistance of up to 100 meters. Now onto that dial, and the main feature of this Snow White is without a doubt these horizontal lines that go right across the dial, which adds both texture and depth into that dial, with each horizontal line approximately 0.75mm apart, so in my opinion perfectly balanced between too thin and too thick. You've also got a very high polished overall feel to that dial. The hour markers are dagger indices which are faceted to give it a lot of depth, but also makes these indices catch the light beautifully, giving this watch a really elegant and dressy feel to it. Now the sharp head of each dagger points towards the centre of that dial, and you've got a double dagger here at 12 o'clock, which is kinda neat and something you tend to see on the likes of the Omega Seamaster with vintage dagger indices, and something that you tend to see more often with baton hour markers. So double dagger at 12 o'clock is a huge tick. Each of the hour markers here on the dial is set against smaller circular applied hour markers outlined with printed black circles, and those hour markers, as you'll see in a second, are applied with Lume. And of course you have the double round markers at 12 o'clock. Now for me, the introduction of these small round markers in between the dagger indices and the riot adds something else and something different to the overall face of this watch that really moves it away slightly from the spectrum of this being exclusively a dress watch to something that is a little more casual. You have their MonPrunier brand name and logo in polished silver and applied under the 12 o'clock, and some spec printed in black above the 6 o'clock with the Swiss movement declaration on either side of the 6 o'clock round hour marker. And the dial is placed amongst this fairly deep rehaut, and I say fairly deep given that the overall thickness of this case is only 9.2mm, so it's impressive that they were able to create a rehaut that adds a bit of depth to this dial. And on it you have printed lines to mark the hours, dots for minutes, and numerals to indicate 15, 30, 45 and 60 minutes a seconds. Now the hour and minute hands are sword hands to complement the sharpness of those dagger indices, in white with high polished steel outline. And just notice how the end of the hour hand gently touches the sharp end of the hour marker, and the very edge of the minute hand falls perfectly into the centre of the round hour marker. The seconds hand is high polished steel with this quirky leaf counterbalancing that seconds hand. The leaf being an element of their MonPrunier logo, so cool and a very elegant touch to the design of this watch. Also note that the date complication at the 3 o'clock position with that date window outlined in polished steel. Now other colourways are available with the original MonPrunier Deep Blue, Royal Green and Gold, which by the way gold is sold out and has been for a while now. And that dial sits under this sapphire crystal, which as you know has excellent transparency, meaning that it won't distort the dial or affect the legibility of this watch. and it has plenty of AR coating on the underside too. Now with regards to Lume, there is a spot of BGW9 on those round hour markers and obviously on the hour and minute hands. Now you're not going to be able to use this Lume as a torch down a dark alleyway, and it certainly isn't going to light up a dark room in any spectacular form. But then I guess, what else would one expect from a dress watch? Now the bracelet is a 316L stainless steel Jubilee bracelet attached to the case with solid end links, so a very secure feel at the case. But as it tapers down, there is a bit of wiggle along the way, and that bracelet does sport this fold over push deployment clasp that is also signatured. And if I'm being brutal, probably the main element of this watch that just knocks it down a score or two if I'm honest. However, MonPrunier informed me that the clasp is something they'd like to improve in future models, and probably much to the utter disdain of everybody watching this, may I suggest a butterfly clasp? Anyway, now other leather straps are available on their website as an optional extra if you really wanted to make this feel much more like a casual everyday wear. The movement is a Ronda caliber 505 that sits in the heart of the MonPrunier, so a Swiss parts version quartz with 6 joules, hacking seconds and a battery life of anything from around 45 to 50 months. The caseback is a screw-down caseback, highly polished with a full MonPrunier logo slap bang in the middle of it, and it sports some other specification on there too, water resistance, movement and stainless steel info, but quite weirdly not the 316L status. On my 7.5 inch wrist, again it wears much as you'd expect this to wear, nice and light, and actually that bracelet, which hand on heart I didn't like at first, actually wears pretty comfortably and looks okay too. That slender 9.2mm thickness of the case coupled with the 40mm case diameter and big white dial makes this feel like a fairly large dress watch on your wrist. The high proportion of polished steel on the dial, on the case, the bezel and on that Jubilee bracelet makes this feel, in a way, ultra dressy. But saying that, when I took it for a walk along the Peak District, I wore shorts, t-shirt and trainers, and it just about felt okay for my casual attire. But if you do decide to take the plunge and order a MonPrunier and you want to use it more on a casual basis and make it feel more like a casual watch, I would 100% suggest bagging one of their leather straps. Now in terms of price, each one of the MonPrunier currently listed on their website, so that's the deep blue, royal green and this the snow white, is priced at 4,990 Czech koruna, which in today's market is around £182 sterling or around 225 USD, which for me, for a pretty smart and unique Microbrand, Swiss made, Swiss quartz movement 316L stainless steel, a pretty cool dial and one that can be worn with a suit or for me in your scrubs, I think it's pretty reasonable. Now overall, I kind of find myself going back to how I initially felt that night when I was scrolling through Instagram as 90 Day Fiancé reached its climax, as Cara, 29 from Charlottesville, and Guillermo, 23 from Venezuela, find out the outcome of their K1 visa application. Exciting times. And I remember that feeling I had when I came across the MonPrunier, as I do with all new microbrands I discover, and it was one of excitement. And I'm totally biased, as you know, to microbrands, and in particular the smaller micros of this world. Now I kind of wish I felt this way about AliExpress brands, and perhaps I'd get more views on my channels, as most AliExpress reviewers do. But hey ho, microbrands and unknown microbrands is what I like to talk about the most. Now if this exact design was on a AliExpress factory special Piagiani Pagani steel thingy majig watch, I may have kept scrolling down. Now on a very serious note, just to clarify that I don't hate AliExpress and fully appreciate what they do and the people who like their watches, so please don't hate me, it was a joke. But who knows, I may have probably stopped and inspected it a little bit more, and that's because I actually really do like the design of the dial, and in particular those hour markers, and dare I even say the overuse of polished silver on this dial. And the price point is pretty reasonable too. I think this does naturally lean towards a dress watch, but has elements to it that make it feel like it can be worn as a casual everyday wear. I certainly didn't feel it was too dressy on my wrist walking around in my scrubs, but in all honesty, it just stopped short of it being a little bit too bling in my scrubs, given the amount of high polish all over the watch. So saying that, I would probably prefer to have it on a leather band. But as it stands, with this Jubilee bracelet, I love that it can be just worn in casual attire as well as obviously smart attire. So there you have it. On my awesome but pretty pointless scale, let's face it, it's pretty much leaning towards everyday wear. And you know what? I really love that about this watch. But above all else, I love the thought behind the brand. MonPrunier, my plum tree. It's something that, as you probably know, I love about microbrands. There's a personality behind it. Something perhaps not heritage as such in the brand name or worldwide reputation in amongst the billion or so brands out there, but for a small brand there is certainly a huge amount of heritage in the philosophy, personal values and meaning behind that MonPrunier brand.
What look? That bad. Doesn't it go into a shoe? Almost. Now I'm almost cold. Now I am cold. I just would like to be the sheep all the way down here. Wouldn't you, Thomas? Yeah, because I know. What is this? Step back for a minute. What's that big orange thing? Is that an orange peel? Leo, use these stuff inside. And then he saw that. And then he said, oh, I'll use this tree to come into the box. Morning, 869 billion years ago. Morning, 869 billion years ago. He's going to stick one of these things in the back. Yeah, right. It just goes. Yeah, you can sell this to one of your friends.